I don't even know. Oh yeah. All right, welcome. If it did not record earlier, this will be our video 1. If it recorded earlier, this will be video 2. But anyway, welcome back. I am waiting on 3 more people that were there earlier, and now after we run out of time are not back. So just put that here so we'll see. Okay, so I was talking about can somebody remind me? We're talking about the what you do in your classroom to communicate with the parents. So having that communication notebook is good because you can have them to have the parents right there and have the expectation. Like, for example, if you really need to the parents to call you, you can put it there. Of course, you're going to have students that will be so irresponsible that they won't even bring that, or they would leave that at home, whatever. So what I did in my classroom was I had, you know, my students will be in groups, so 4, for example, and then they will form a team. Like the beginning of the year, they would form a team. They name their group a certain name or whatever, and they really, you know, they really have a name for their team. So they're kind of form that little bonding time with their members, you know. But then they have a group points that I give. And so for example, if they're just like team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4, and whatever name they call it, if all of them have their notebook, you know, in and sign or whatever it is that it require them to do, then they get so many points, you know, and it's on the board. They'll see they're so competitive, they want to beat the other team. And so then on Friday, whoever has the biggest you know, points, they get to do something. Like for some reason, students from that school that I went to, they really love to eat in the classroom, because a lot of times they eat in the cafeteria. And it's so special to eat in the classroom because we watch TV, we do all kinds of things that the others don't, you know. And so anyway, they like that. And I always brought like some kind of snacks or some kind of dessert, so they get to eat that with me on Friday. And also later on, it became like, instead of just that, I made it like, if you reach so many points or whatever, and you don't have students that are like not bringing homework, like they have a certain points that they meet, and then they actually get back to my room. And it became like the parents were invited later, and it became like almost like, well, I do not want to get in trouble, because then my parents will have to eat with me in the cafeteria instead of eating in the classroom. And the parents then would know that, oh, you were in trouble. Why are you eating here in the cafeteria when, you know? But of course, I had to clear this with my principal. I told my principal, this is what I'm doing. This is my way of knowing the parents and so on. And I was videotaping, you know, my students were videotaping the class a lot. We were doing a lot of role play and so on. And so we would have this video every Friday from the whole week's work. You know, they were making commercial, they were making all kinds of things, some activities that we did. We may be cooking, we may be doing some, you know, weather report or whatever. And so they want to show that to their parents on Friday. So if you have been really bad and you have to go to study hall or, you know, wherever they're punished, your parents will know. Your parents will know that, oh, you're not there. Because we, you know, at that time we owned the cable company. So I just stick this video in our basement where my husband had set up, that it goes to the whole town. It goes to the whole community. And the parents, when they, of course, they have to sign this permissions before we, you know, the beginning of the year, make sure that their kids are okay to be taped. You know, for those that did not want to be videotaped, the parents did not want them to be videotaped, and they are the camera people. They're my cameramen or women. You know, so they're behind the scenes, but they're still involved. But any of our stories, any of our things that we did were always hands-on. So, you know, I was just telling people before that if any of my former students become famous, I'll be rich, because I have all these videos of them when they were little, you know, acting or whatever. And I think one of my students is now a doctor. Well, not more than one, and I think 2 or 3 are lawyers and so on. So I'm like, when I see them, like I saw that one who's a doctor now in our church, And I said, hey, congratulations. I'm so, I'm so excited for you. And then they would tell you things that they remember in your classroom, and said, oh, I remember that time when you asked us to do a diorama of the book that we have read, a book report. Instead of just talking about your book report, you had us to do a creative way of doing a book report. And I did this really big diorama of this farm scene or something. I remember that when he said that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I remembered his, father had to bring in this really big thing. He had to like not ride the bus that day because he had done this diorama. But anyway, it's kind of neat to do that, to have that memory because you did hands-on learning instead of just being worksheet or whatever. I always made sure that what can I do to make this hands-on? What can I do? What does this look like in the real world? So if we're studying about the weather, what does it look like in the real world? Well, in the real world, they're predicting the weather through, the meteorologists on TV are predicting what the weather is. Well, in America, there's a lot of, it's important to predict the weather because the weather here changes a lot. In the Philippines, it's like, well, it's going to be raining or not, and it's hot. But here it's like in the winter time, it's really cold. And so they're going to say so many degrees and so on, or it's going to snow, or in the summer, it might say it's just rain, but not snow. But anyhow, so we thought that was really good to have my students do, being meteorologists on TV. And so you have, we have this big map and they're making the symbols of the weather, the weather symbols, low pressure, high pressure, all this other, and they were putting this in laminated map. So they were putting their symbols that they have to learn what they mean. And then they have to make a report using the symbols and talking to them about, about the weather. And so, which means that they have to watch an actual weather report so that they kind of emulate, they kind of follow what to say. They were so, they have to be dressed up because, you see meteorologists, they're going to be dressed up. The men are going to be looking like suits and then the women are so dressed up. So they had to do that. Okay. And for the commercial later, whenever we were doing persuasive speeches or persuasive, writing, then I said, well, writing a commercial, they're really trying to persuade you to do something. So there were kids that were doing a commercial of like a dog food, and then they would have somebody talking about it, they working in groups or pairs. And then so they're talking about somebody has to be the dog. So, one somebody's pretending to be the dog. And then the person talking would be talking about the commercial, and then the dog would be like doing something. But anyway, but then at the same time, they have to do that person that's a dog cannot just get away with just that. They have to switch, do another one where the other person will be the partner, but you are talking, because the whole point is about, oral development, to improve their speeches, to how they speak and how they write. So anytime that you do anything, you have to have the speaking, the writing, the listening, and what's the else I'm missing? Speaking, listening, writing, and reading. So if you have all those 4 things in an activity, that's a really good thing, especially if you're a literacy teacher, social studies teacher, even in science, you can actually have them do, I had research every month. I have them to do research. This is before Common Core, but I always believe that I want to know more about what my kids' interests are. So we have, for example, you have a big theme of change. This month, we're going to be studying about change. So, so they get to choose what their topic is, but then in their topic, they have to show change. So for example, if you choose spider because you love to, studying about spider, then you need to show how spiders change from, for example, from when they were little or they're big, or how they change in their habits or whatever it is, patterns. And but that's the common thing is your theme, but they get to choose their topic. I have to approve the topic, because I think when I was teaching high school, I've taught all the grades except 10th and 12th. So they would like to do like this rock and roll group or something, and they want to talk about like how they are so awful, like they would break the hotel room, things they would be telling me. But I said, so how does that relate to our theme? Because they just want to shock, like shock and awe, like they wanted to shock their friends or whatever, and so they have to stay with that theme, and some of them were like, I really like Bermuda Triangle. I really like this or whatever. And I said, well, go for it. But you're going to have to connect it to the theme that we're doing. Anyway, but you have to, why I want it to be approved is that I want the topic to be also unique. I don't want 5-6 people doing the same topic. And so I want it to be, different. And sometimes we would do like all about US presidents. So they'll do about the US presidents, and they would, I ask them, they usually have a rubric that we usually develop together. So I would say, okay, at the end of this, you'll have 100 points. So you might want to say content is usually more than half of that. So 50, 60, 70 points for content. And then you can do 10 points of grammar, that's 80, and 10 points of creativity, that's 90, and then another 10 points of whatever it is you can come up with. Okay, you can, so, but the students, I always have them to be involved in what are the things we should be looking for? And so the presentation could be in there. So if you can do 50 on content and 20 in presentation when you present it, and then do the other things, or 30 in presentation. So you can do something like that, and then that way they get the 100 points. But so what I did was I always asked them to do those trifold, like a poster board, but they do trifold thing. And so they would do that, and so that's graded. And then they have to have some kind of sculpture. So they have a modeling clay, or whatever those what do you call those things that the kids would play with, and Play-Doh, like a Play-Doh, and they would do some kind of sculpture to represent their topic. So for example, if it's about spiders, well, they'll do a Play-Doh of spider there, so that you can see in front of their folder that you will see the sculpture that they did, which is incorporating art into that, and then they have to have a of course the report in there, and they have to have a slide presentation. So so that's one thing that I did. And then of course it's going to depend on the grade. So your kindergarten may be able to do 2 slides, 3 slides. And then because according to Common Core, they're supposed to do research K-12. So kindergarten too. You might not get them there until the January, until whole semester has been there. But my own kids, like Jet, he was doing PowerPoint presentation with me when he was 4 years old, before he went to school. So and our kids now are digital natives. We are the digital immigrant, but they're digital natives. They're playing with our phone, they're playing with the iPad and so on when they're 2, so they are so used to this. And so whenever they are, I think, what was it, so around first grade, they would have maybe 5 slides, and I used to have a formula, like I would say the grade plus 3 plus 4, and that's how many slides they have to have, so your 12th graders, your 10th graders are going to have a lot of slides. Like, for example, if it's a book report, and I have different ways to do book report, not the diorama, but I always have a thing for everybody to say, okay, your PowerPoint needs to include, the book, how the book looks like, a picture of the book, and then the author, of course, and they have to rate it the star, like you do in Amazon, 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, and why. And of course they have their elements of the story, from the characters to the setting and the problem and how they solve the problem and so on. Do you recommend it? Why do you not recommend it? All these things that I ask them to, the components of the book report has to be in the PowerPoint, and then they present it. They have to present it to class. So they have to share it with me. Like when I had 11th graders do that, and this was right before I retired. So it was 2004. I retired in 2016. So I want to say that was 2013, possibly, something like that. And so I had a Google class. Of course, I had Google Classroom. So I had a paperless classroom. We hardly use any paper. We used everything Google. So they have to send it to me. So when their presentation was shared with me, then what I did was they just have them to put their names on the board for the presenters for the day. And so it's very smooth because you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have 5 presenters for that period, for example, and then they're going to put their names down and they share it with me. So I just open my Google, of course, I cleaned out all the personal things. You don't want kids to see your personal things, but only showing them all the shared, the shared folders. And so they just went in there and just share it with the class and then start presenting it. I don't have to turn it on, off. They just like, went with that. But it's very smooth. I don't have to call them. They just went in there, and then the audience have to, I gave the audience pieces of paper, so that while they are listening, they have to be taking notes, and they have to do I grow, and a glow. No, I grow, and then a glow in the middle, and then a grow again. So they have to brag on something. Oh, I like the way that your voice is so loud, or you can hear it from the from the back, or you have all the components, the requirements or whatever. But then you might want to improve this. So you kind of sandwich in that what to improve in the middle. So your glow, your grow, and then another brag, another glow. So so that way they came out with a positive on each end. I by the way, I do the same thing when I do parent teacher conferences. I always do a glow, grow, and glow sandwich comments, I call them. So that's really powerful. You do that to your husband or boyfriend too. I do that to my husband. Hi dear, you did a good job on this, but you know what? I wonder if you can do this. And then I'd brag again. So anyway, that's powerful in life. But anyway, I'm digressing. So anyway, in different weeks, for people that are new here, we kind of we talk about different things depending on what comes up in our conversation, right? So do you have any question, especially Dina, who's new? Do you have any question about like the difference of the kids, the US kids, and also the education or whatever? Do you have any question for me? This is a time to ask. Because if you look at our old videos, we have discussed so many different things. You have any, like, tell us. Yeah.
Okay, Doc. I have another question, Doc.
Yes, go ahead.
Actually, my case is I'm teaching here in Thailand, right? And I'm wondering, like, I don't have any experience in the Philippines. So my experience as a teacher is here in Thailand. Then if I will get a job offer under the J1 exchange program, would there be a problem with that?
No, because teaching experience is teaching experience. Yeah.
Yeah, then there's a letter, Doc, right, that I need to, like, there should be a school from the Philippines that will partner.
Oh, I do not know that part. That's for a visa sponsor requirement. But as far as I know, somebody told me that some visa sponsor would say that you have to be teaching the current year. You cannot be like not have no experience or not teaching right now. So I know that's a biggie right there. Anybody else that's doing the visa sponsorship, what do you have a list of requirements? Okay, Dina, if you can Google J1 visa requirements US, try to do that. Can somebody do that? Let me see if I can. Anyway, if somebody can do that, J1 visa requirements US, see if that is any of the requirement, because a lot of times, they all have all the visa sponsors to follow the same requirement. But I noticed that some of them would actually add things that they want for their own organization. And so that's why, although they are all visa sponsors from the US that have been approved, some of them are stricter than others. Like, for example, I noticed that some of them would actually charge people just to even apply. And I know, was it Greenheart? I think that actually charged $200 or something to apply, while others do not. You just go in and they charge the school, the big money, but they don't have the extra application fee or something. So J1, did anybody Google that? J1 requirements, visa requirements, US, and see if there's any requirement. So I guess the answer to that, Dina, is it depends on who you pick as a visa sponsor. Because as far as I know, there are some people that had come from, that have been teaching in other countries, and they are here. So I know it could not be a problem, but maybe they also have experiences in the Philippines. I don't know, but to me, that's a requirement of, I know that in the according to US immigration, 3 or 4 years of experience with a bachelor's degree in the Philippines, Philippine education, is equivalent to a master's degree here. So you have a bachelor plus 4 years, that's equivalent to a master's degree in the US. That's kind of how they look at it. Okay, so even if they say master's degree and you don't have it, but they just kind of have that combination. It's what they look at it. But also if you have your doctorate degree, so for those people that are not here, but they are going to get this video, if you have your doctorate degree, you can actually apply for a visa yourself. You can self-apply because you're going to fall under the EB2 or something that you are like extraordinary something, abilities or, education. So you are above and beyond. So you can actually apply yourself. So I have my doctorate degree. So if I were still in the Philippines, I would have been able to come out to actually apply for myself to start it. And then you have to have, if you have a visa sponsor already, then they will go ahead and do whatever, there's any paperwork there, whatever that they need. But you can actually start the process yourself without having to wait for somebody. But that's kind of, unless you just have lots of money though, that's when it's kind of scary to just like, oh, am I going to be paying for the whole thing? And I don't know if I'm going to have a job, right? But anyway, yeah. So, okay, that's a good question, Dina. Anybody else that had a question? Because I was telling them earlier about the differences between how the students act. It's a cultural difference actually, which means it's going to affect your classroom management. Tell me about Thailand. Is it very similar, Dina, to, well, you don't have a comparison, do you? But okay, compare it to your own educational experiences while you were a student in the Philippines. How is it different in Thailand, for example?
One of the challenges that I encountered when I came here in Thailand, Doc, it was the language barrier. Okay. Because actually I graduated my program in the university that I took in the Philippines, it's for secondary, but when I came here in Thailand, I was assigned to teach for primary students, and okay, especially so for 2 years, I was assigned to teach those children. Then afterwards, I transferred to high school to practice my field. So when I came here, it was really a big challenge for me because they were really young during that time.
Yeah, yeah. you're so used to big kids. Yeah.
Yeah, they cannot speak English. Then me, I cannot speak Thai. So I was forced to learn Thai a little bit. I speak broken Thai.
Yeah.
Sa Bisaya pa.
Oh yeah.
Just communicate to them. But now I'm happier now because I practice the field like for middle school to high school students. So I'm assigned to English program department in our school. So we are obliged to speak in English because the students are under that kind of program. So I'm not forced to speak Thai, but there are still pros and cons. Like if you will be forced to speak Thai, you could communicate more to the locals.
Yeah.
However, if not, you could be deceived.
Yeah. I bet in the market, especially. Like I bet. Yeah. Well,
yeah, but I could speak Tinamban, Doc. Tinamban na Thai.
Okay. They call that well, Taglish or Spanglish or something, a combination, right? Yeah. Well, that's good. Yes, it's teaching out of level, like sounds like you did that out of level. That's actually, be open to that because you can, in the US, you can do a praxis test, PRAXIS. So when you're getting an interview and you say, oh, we need for you to teach at this level, you need to say, well, I'm willing to take praxis tests because practice tests will take you from different levels. So if you are here, I think they do K4, 4, 8, 9, 12. So if you are in the K4 and they want you to do the 5, 8, you can just take a practice test for that. And then if they want you to even go higher than 8th grade, then you can also take a practice test for that. Okay, my sister did that. She was an English teacher and she wanted to also have the higher level. So she went ahead and took a practice test and passed it. So she was wanting to move to junior high. She didn't get it, but she's still in middle school, but she's ready. If she ever wants to move, she only has 3 more years now to actually retire. So she's looking forward to that. But yeah, just be sure that you're open. You know, some of them would even do a out of field, like they are so desperate for a teacher and you might be this certain subject and they ask you to teach another subject. They call them an out of field. So they actually have an out of field form that they would file for the Department of Education here, and then they give you a waiver for like 2 years, 2 or 3 years for you to get your practice test passed, or if you have to take a class or two, then they will give you that time. You know, especially for schools that are really have shortage and are having problems getting the, you know, certified people. And so anyway, so yeah, there are other ways. Just get here, right? Just get here is what you need to do. So in the interviews, they will be asking you, and also it's kind of a test for you. Are you flexible? Are you going to be willing to adjust? Because sometimes let me see if the chat here. Sometimes problem is some people are so not flexible that they are, that they can do it. They did not want to do it. Like Crystal is saying on chat, like me, doc, I am a what? BEED graduate, but I will teach high school math. Okay. So you are elementary and you're teaching high school math. So Crystal, are you going to be taking a practice test then? Is that what you're doing? Where's Crystal? Crystal, talk to us. What are you planning to do in League High School? Are you going to be taking a practice test? Is she here? Crystal, did we lose her? Well, anyway, so yeah, you can do that. And if the schools, I think schools here are graded, okay? There's some A school, B school, C school, D school, and F school. So you're gonna have schools that are on the D, you know, the D level. They are gonna be more flexible because they really want you to kind of have more qualified teachers there. So they really want you to get to so that they would help better the grade too for the school, because they're going to grade them to like how many people with master's degrees and above, you know, specialist, doctorate, and all that counts well to the school, and how many people with so many years of experience, how many people that are working on your own field or own level. All those things are graded and they come up and they would help in your overall score. So like, for example, there's also such thing as national board certification here, which I am a national board certified teacher. And where's Crystal? Crystal, welcome back. You got cut off. So Crystal, tell us about your Praxis 3 need. Do you have to take one because of your certification? She's back in, I don't know. Anyway, we'll come back to her. But anyway, National Board certification is when you get here and you have to have at least 3 years of experience. You take this test. And since your school, most of your school that you're mentioning are actually gonna be Title I school. Title I school means that they are a school with poverty, high poverty, that 70% or more of your students are poor. And so if you are working at a Title I school, if you are National Board certified teacher, like my sister is and I am, you get $10,000 a year extra. So that's like a bonus. So if you're making 40,000, you're making 50,000. And the nice thing about it, they'll give you that check for $10,000, like every year you get that. And so my sister would like book a beach trip for a whole week, you know, and others when she gets her check. And so we would do a sister trip. My sister's here from Dallas and my sister's here, the one that's teaching. So the three of us, like for example, Monday, we're taking mom to, to a trip. So we, if you're friends on Facebook with me, you can see our trip. So feel free to invite me as your friend if you want to. But anyway, so yeah, national board certification, once you get your you get your J1, for example, right? And you have your interview with the visa sponsor. That is a different interview than the Manila interview, the embassy interview. So when you get interviewed in the Manila embassy, or even with your visa sponsor, they're going to ask you about like going back to the Philippines, because they, according to J1 visa requirement, is you have to do 3 years and then you have to go back for 2 years for the 2-year physical presence requirement. Well, there is a waiver for that now. You pay like 160 and they waive that. You don't have to go back for 2 years and share your experiences. You still have to meet the requirement of doing something every semester, showing that you're teaching the students about the Philippines, for example. Like one of the Helena, Eva's school, the teacher had asked me to like do something with the students. I was actually teaching them how to do writing, the essay writing and so on, to get ready. And so I was there and she took a picture of me and did whatever else she did. And she said it passed as one of the things, the intercultural experience or exchange type thing, because I'm Filipino. I was educated here, and that's my field. I'm a literacy specialist, and I was teaching the students. And so anyway, so yeah, that's the one counted. And another one, I think Eva, your sister, did where they had a Filipino, like a fiesta or something. She was teaching them about the Philippine flag, the Philippine food, Philippine, things about the Philippine culture. And they have like a little meal thing in the classroom. And so she was also showing that she also was learning about American food and American experience. So you just have to show those things that you do with your students that relate to the Philippine and the US experience. So you're showing the students about our country, the Philippines, and then you're also showing in your video, whatever artifacts you're going to prove, that you're also learning something from the students of their own culture. So there is that exchange of information or learning. So you are required to do that, I think, on J1 visa once every semester, so twice a year. So be thinking about that. What are the things that you're gonna be bringing here in order to show your students? So for those that are coming here soon, Eva and Leslie, Marissa, Crystal, you need to make sure you bring some things from the Philippines, like Philippine flag, little flags, or any little things that you can bring that shows Philippines, map, any little things that you can just fold and put in your luggage. Bring it so you can show it to your students, because it might be hard to get it when you're here. So go to Gaisano or wherever you go, and then get some Philippine stuff, Philippine fans, Philippine artifacts, those cheap things that you can buy that, they might sell right there in the souvenir shops, but it would show Philippines. Get those, because those are some things that the students would love to see. One year there was a college here. I am having cold. Anyway, there was a college here in nearby, about 20 minutes from here. And they were asking me, they have a cultural, like international, I guess, festival or something for their school, and they chose the Philippines for that 1 year. And so they asked for it in the Filipino community, like, okay, who do you want to, who will speak for you to tell us about the Philippines? Well, they called me and said, hey, you do this a lot. You talk for a living. Will you do it? So I said, yeah, I don't mind doing it. I already have some PowerPoints I have made that's comparing the Philippines and the US. And I even have some links to videos and so things that I can show. And I did that. So the whole auditorium of students. And then I was telling them about the Philippines. And after that, my Filipino friends and so on, they brought Filipino foods, and they actually have like a big buffet, people coming in and tasting our food. And then they brought like baskets, they brought all kinds of artifacts that we displayed all over the auditorium in tables. And then the students were able to see the different artifacts from the Philippines. And so when I was speaking, I was actually showing them, these are the artifacts and so on. And don't forget to come by and taste our food at the end of the presentation. And so anyway, so that's kind of something you could do with your students in a smaller version. That was a big version, because there were, I don't know, maybe 20 Filipinos that were over there helping. We have organizations here. You'll find that in different communities, you're going to have Filipino American organization. My sister and I used to be a president and vice president of that organization when we first got here. So we were organizing, I guess we're just party animals, because we would do like a picnic in the summer. We would do a Christmas party, like the Christmas party in but 25 minutes away from here. Every year I'm the host. So I'm actually the one hosting and doing the program and doing games for the kids and so on. So they always, like, before they decide on the date, they said, hey, Ellen, they call me Ellen instead of Merlina. Hey, Ellen, is this date open? We're planning to do this in December, whatever, and this weekend, and this is at the, can you save the date because we want you to host this or whatever. So yeah, so we do a lot of things like that. And we always invite other, that's why it's called Filipino American organization, because we invite other Asians, not just Filipinos. We invite, of course, the Americans. I invite some of my teacher friends that are big into Asian food. So last time, I think the last year, I actually donated a whole lechon. I donated it for party, but I did not tell them it was from me. That was anonymous donation. Do not tell them when it's delivered by my Filipino friend that does that. I said, don't tell them who paid, it's just a donation by somebody who, want to thank everybody, for coming. And so that was a good surprise, because we didn't have lechon and I just like donated it. So now that guy has a lot of business, because they were like wanting to get his phone number and whatever, because here we're so crazy about lechon, like, oh my God, we cannot get that. So now there's a guy 2 hours from here that would deliver. Gosh, it's like $350. So that's what, 17,000 pesos, but it's a big one. It's a really big one, and they already put it in a big tray and all that. So they just delivered, and I just secretly paid, and they left, and so on. But anyway, so yeah, we do things like that. And there's one about 45 minutes away where my sister lives, and they have a big one. My sister doesn't attend them anymore because her kid is big now, but I always attended when I had my children are now 32 and 23. So when they were little, I always made sure that they attended. And some of you may be bringing your kids in with a J2 visa. Make sure they attend those things, because you want them to be involved in the cultural, experience of that. My kids, and I'm proud to say, have always attended those things. I did not have to make them, because they look forward to it. Actually, they like the music. Somebody would actually do the tinikling, and somebody would do the dance of the light thing. And they do a lot of Filipino, with the costume and so on. They would do that. And so my kids look forward to that. And we played games. We had the ship is sinking, group yourself into 3, like that. And then they would have like, those little balloon that they put on their forehead, and they have to dance with that with no hands. And so they would do all kinds of things like that, musical chairs. But the thing is, you kids will remember that. Now that they are 32 and 23, they look for those places. My daughter who lives in Hawaii now, she said, she's a doctor now too. She said, Mom, that in my neighborhood it's mostly Filipinos. So I have so many aunties, so many tia, so many uncles, and they give me like papayas, Mom. They give me malunggay. They give me all this, it's so neat. She loves it there. And so I said, yeah, you're like living the Philippine way in the US, because Hawaii is so expensive. It's like the eggs that are normally $2 here, 100 pesos a dozen here in where I live, it's $6 there, 3 times. So anyway, and she loves to cook, and she loves to cook Filipino foods. And before she left to go to college, just like Jet did too, they wanted all the recipes that they enjoyed, from pancit to egg rolls to all that stuff. They took the recipe and was cooking it in college for their friends. My mom is here 5 minutes from me, so they were getting recipes from grandma. They were getting recipes from me, a lot from grandma, because my recipes actually came from grandma. But anyway, so yeah, and then I taught them how to play mahjong. So my kids are mahjong players. Well, the girl anyway, Stephanie, and she actually did a mahjong club in college. So she had her friends, at least 3 other friends. They would play mahjong. They did not bet or anything. They just like would do